Okay, welcome everyone to the APA, the Ayurveda Professionals of Arizona, continuing community education series. And I'm super thrilled with today's event. This is with Lorilee Gilmore, who is a longtime Ayurvedic practitioner, expert in Ayurvedic body treatments, herbs. She's a highly skilled, highly advanced yoga teacher, and an amazing chef. So Lorilee, it has something so amazing for us today, and I've never seen it presented anywhere. So this is incredible. She's going to help educate us about the indigenous foods of Arizona and what makes them Ayurvedic. So I'm super excited. Lorilee, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with everyone today. So just a little housekeeping, this is being recorded. And so anytime you have a question, the attendees that are here live, go ahead and put a question in the chat. And then when Lorilee's ready to take a question, we can read them out. And then if there is any other thing you need to do, come and go, whatever you need, feel free to keep your video camera on or off, but we do ask that you keep yourself muted just so that we get a clear audio. So great. Without any further delay, Lorilee Gilmore, here you go.
Thank you. So I'm excited to do this because food, I'm very passionate about food. I don't actually consider myself an expert in anything. I really try to just remain super curious. And since we moved back into the house, I've been doing something called farmers market field trips. And what I'm trying to do is teach people how to have the farmers market be their very first grocery shopping, because then we are getting chronically fresh, local, seasonal food, which is really, really important. But then I wanted to take that a little bit deeper into honoring the land that we actually live on. It's kind of like a colonizer's attitude to come into a land and just let us be like, oh, we're going to show you how to do something different, rather than be curious about the healing properties and the medicinal aspects of the food of the land that we are moving onto. So I did want to start with a land acknowledgement. And so just ground yourself down, close your eyes for a moment, feel the land that we are standing on, sitting on, move into the heart, open with a little bit of gratitude. So we acknowledge the 23 native nations that have inhabited this land for centuries. We honor the land and we reside in located in the Salt River Valley on ancestral territories of Indigenous people, including the Ohodom and the Peepash, so Pima and Maricopa Indian communities, whose care and keeping of these lands allow us to be here today. We acknowledge the sovereignty of these nations and are advocates for the incorporation of Indigenous knowledge systems. So when we're eating locally and with an Ayurvedic lens, I found this term. It was coined in 2005, but Ayurveda has been doing this for centuries. It's called a lokovar. So instead, a lokovar. Am I saying that right? Locavore. Locavore, yeah. So also, I just want a little side note. I'm not a linguistic, so I might trip over some of the words for these different things. But again, I'm staying curious. And so, a locavore. So, when we are eating locally, then that makes us a locavore, which I love that. Um, Part of eating this way as well is learning how to be stewards of the land rather than just consumers of the land. And it's really important because we are chronic centric beings to eat foods that are filled with prana. And our microbiome is really into eating natural, seasonal, local foods. So let me get to my little notes, and let me just tell you what we're making today. We're going to do something called a Three Sisters kind of veggie soup bowl. And the Three Sisters are temporary beans, squash, and hominy. And so I have been working with temporary beans for many, many, many years. And I love them. When I'm making my refried beans, I actually like to use the black temporary beans. So we've got black, tan, and white temporary beans. And so I just want to talk a little bit about the qualities of them. They have they have a lot of protein, anywhere between 20 and 25 grams. I'll get into the specifics in just a moment. But the temporary beans are believed to be the world's most drought tolerant bean. They're grown along the Gila River with limited irrigation and rainfall. And the bean is also high in fiber and protein. It has a low glycemic index, making it healthy for any diet. Because temporary beans are high in soluble and insoluble fibers, they can lower your LDL or your bad cholesterol, which helps the buildup of plaque in arteries, and it can lower your risk of heart disease. So the insoluble fiber in temporary beans can also help lower blood sugar. And the soluble fiber can help aid in digestion and lower inflammation. So right here, we've got a powerhouse of great nutrition. And they all have different tastes. So they also are really good. The solubles really good for digestion and to help with constipation. They're really healthy for the digestive system. And you want to make sure that you actually season them with salt after you cook them, because if you cook them with salt, they can become kind of tough. So the brown temporary beans are known for a deeper nut-like or earthy flavor. Those are the ones that we are actually using today. They have 56 grams of fiber and they have 23 grams of protein. The white temporary bean are generally considered to have a milder, more delicate flavor compared to the dark varieties. And they are 52 grams of fiber and 22 grams of protein. And then the black temporary beans are a rare, distinct variety with rich flavor, and they have 34 grams of fiber and 26 grams of protein. So it gives you kind of some wiggle room to play with these different flavors. And once you start playing with them, you'll fall in love with them. So this is where I get them. So this is the actual farm. You can, yes, order these on Amazon, but really support the farmers. And they have a great website where you can get all sorts of things. But this is a family farm that grows the temporary beans, and I highly recommend ordering them from there. Um, so the second sister is hominy. So here is dried hominy. That's the dried hominy, and you want to soak it for a good long time. So we started soaking ours last night, and you want to soak it until it kind of like butterflies or falls apart. So hominy, it supports the kidneys and the heart, depending on how it's dried. It can have anywhere between 20 to 300% more calcium than dried corn. And so through the Americas, most corn was processed into like a grain, which enhances the flavor, and it also shortens cooking time. So to process the corn, it's boiled with either wood or ash or slack lime until the hull is softened and washed off. So this is our hominy, and it has this really nice chewy texture. I wish that you all could come over and have a bowl after we were done. But so you'll see what that looks like. And then the third sister is our squash. So there are different types of squash. I wasn't able to get my hands on one of the indigenous varietals before today, but acorn squash has often been grown here for many, many years. So we're using acorn squash today. Another aspect or another ingredient that we're going to use is called epazote. So this is epazote. And in Ayurveda, we typically use asafoetida as a carminative to help with flatulence reduction. But this is what is actually cooked in our Three Sisters to help with the gas aspect of it. So it's warming. It has a mild antiseptic flavor to it, and it tastes very different cooked than it does raw. So when it's fresh like this, it's pungent, medicinal, and it has an earthy flavor. So you can think of it like oregano, citrus, anise, mint with a little hit of pine, or I've even heard some, I don't taste it, but some people say petroleum. So I don't know. I don't eat petroleum, so I don't know about that. So when it's raw, it's very strong and pungent and slightly bitter, but when it's cooked, it becomes more savory and herbal, and it's often described as um, it kind of like tastes a little bit like tarragon, a little bit of fennel, and oregano. So it's really delicious, but it's also, this is our anti-flatulence. This is what we are cooking with our beans to reduce vata. Also, you want to be mindful of using this, and for this big old pot that I made, I just used 1 teaspoon of chopped fresh, and I cooked it in there. So I'll get to the recipe in a moment. But it works with a Panavayu, so it's the downward flow of prana. So we want to be careful for pregnant women. Don't want to use a lot of this because it will stimulate a Panavayu. And some in the past have used this, was used medicinally very carefully to stimulate menstruation, but it can be toxic if it's taken in too much of quantity. So beware of that. Wild oregano. I put my wild oregano away. So I have dried wild oregano. The leaves are much stronger than the Mediterranean varietal. It's high in antioxidants. It can be used as a tea to soothe sore throats and coughs, and it grows in the wild from northern Mexico, Baja, and Arizona. But what I think what's really important that we in Phoenix need to realize is that we used to be Mexico, so we are actually in old Mexico. And it's pitta and kapha pacifying. Um, so let's look at this Three Sisters bowl. What we're going to do, and I've already done it because we wouldn't have time to do this all, but it's 1 cup of dried hominy, a cup of dried temporary beans, and you will get these recipes as well. 3 tablespoons of ghee or olive oil. Now, traditionally, they would cook more with lard. I'm not a lard girl, and cattle is one of the 5 C's of Arizona. So I'm using ghee, or you can use olive oil, but they traditionally in the recipes they would use a lot of lard. So we're going to do 3 tablespoons of ghee or olive oil, and then a 1/2 cup of wild onions. So this is wild onion. It's like a spring onion, but larger. 1 teaspoon of wild oregano, 2 teaspoons of sage. So we've got our sage. And then at the end, we can finish it with a smoked sea salt or just a regular salt to taste. And then you can either use water or vegetable broth. So what I did was we started soaking the hominy and the beans and then the amaranth that we're going to be using later in the earlier evening last night. And then I chopped up the onion and the epazote and the sage, and then used the wild oregano. I sauteed it with the ghee, and then I added the strained and drained uh, beans and corn, hominy and corn. I'm a pressure cooker girl. So this is something else I wanted to say about the temporary beans. Traditionally, if you were to cook these on the stovetop, these are very, very hard beans. And so they can be rather astringent. So you want to soak them not only overnight, but if you were to cook this on a stove, you would want to cook them for 8 to 10 hours. I love the pressure cooker because it presses the nutrition back into the food. And so that's what we did today. So I did pressure cooker for 28 minutes on high pressure. And temporary beans, they have firm and pressure, and the hominy is going to be chewy. So it's kind of nice when you get this in a bowl together and then add the squash. It's this combination of sweet, astringent, chewy. So we're really working and getting in all of the 6 flavors here. Um, so for the squash, I just tossed it in a little bit of ghee and put it in the oven. So I want to show you what this looks like. And I need to release the pressure. Let me pull it so it doesn't release all over the counters. Or did you release the pressure?
Down. It probably just stuck.
Yeah, release. Okay. Smells so good. Okay. Let me. So this is the final project. And then I'll want to put some salt in it first before, you know. So see how pretty that looks? It's lovely. All right. Put that back in there. And then I'll plate it at the end. I am going to go ahead and put my salt in it right now just so I can salt it and have that done. And then also one more thing that needs to go in it is roasted green chili. So you don't want to cook it with the roasted green chili in it. Otherwise, it's going to be very, very spicy. So this is a mild chili. I don't, for my constitution, I don't do really, really hot things. But this is just a local, I got this at the farmer's market, roasted chili. So that is that. Let me put this back on. Okay. Okay. So whoops. And so let me talk about the amaranth first. Actually, I want to do the chapatis. Let's do chapatis next.
Amaranth will take 20 minutes.
Okay, then I'll do the amaranth. Okay, so I'll talk about the amaranth in a moment, but we're going to go ahead and start. So this is a little bit of ghee with some garlic chopped in it, some wild garlic, native to Arizona, digestive stimulant, good for the immune system. So I'm just going to heat this up slightly. So amaranth, when it's cooked, it has a little bit of a gelatinous taste or a feel to it. So it's really good for joints. Amaranth is, there's more than 60 varietals, and it's cooked on, or it's grown on over five, on all five, on 5 of the 7 continents. And in 1967, I think it was, the UN's Health and Agriculture found that anywhere where there was amaranth being raised, grown, and fed, there was no malnutrition there. So it's really, really nutrient dense. So what we're going to do, water chat. So when we get back over, I just want to show you, if you haven't worked with amaranth and you haven't seen how small the seeds are, one plant can have over, I think it's like 50,000 seeds, and one plant can seed over 2 acres. I'm just going to grab some water. All right. I'm going to bring that up to a boil. Let's see. I'm going to get just a hair more water in there. Okay. All right. So we'll bring this up to a boil. And so when you have any amaranth left over, if you were to have some amaranth left over, there is something that you can do called an amaranth crisp, where you can take a small saucepan or a little frying pan, and you take the ghee and put it in there, and then you just flatten the amaranth out. You can use like wet fingers or a spatula or something, flatten it out, and then turn the heat on and let it roast until the edges start curling up, and then flip it over and do the other side. And it's super, super delicious. If the gelatinous thing, it doesn't taste good to you, I love it. I love amaranth, and it's really, really nutrient dense. So let's get this guy going. Okay. All righty. Okay. I'm going to set my timer for that so I don't forget that it's on, because that happens sometimes. So I'm going to set it, I'm going to start with 15 minutes, and then I'll see if I need to go longer. All righty. So, are there any questions so far? First of all, anybody have any questions?
One of the questions is with the epazote,
Mhm.
with the growing the epazote, you had one little leaf, and that was just a small amount for the beans, correct?
Right.
So when you have epazote, I'm understanding that it's really once you get one epazote plant, you might end up with like 100 in the
It's
next
super
season.
invasive. It's super
Okay.
invasive. So kind of like my lemongrass that I grow, I keep it in a little pot.
Okay. Okay. And the same, what about amaranth and just growing the amaranth and growing the temporary beans? Like what's your
Yeah.
advice on that?
So I would let Ramona Farms grow the temporary beans, because that would be very, very, very labor. And but growing amaranth, and I just know from my dear friend Becky's garden, she put some amaranth in one of her 9 beds, and it's just like took over the entire bed. So again, with amaranth, because the seeds, when the seeds, they'll blow and they'll just go everywhere. So you want to make sure that they are contained.
It sounds like this is something that we go to the supermarket all the time, but since these things are able to be grown right in our own backyards here in Arizona, it would be wonderful for people to reintroduce those if you do have,
Oh,
a local grass yard or something.
yes, yes, yes. And if you can contain it so it doesn't just like, so your yard doesn't become a field.
Thank you. That's all the
But
questions for right now. So,
okay, so to that note though, there's an organization called Native Seed Search. Fantastic. And you can buy indigenous heirloom native seeds from them to start introducing this into your garden. So since we've moved back into our house, we haven't had the capacity to put our garden beds back in yet. But once we do, I'm super excited to start working with them to, start introducing that. I think it would be really, really
mhm.
good. I think it would be really helpful for us to start introducing that back into, our society.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll put the links in when we
Mhm.
send the recording out, along with the recipes here. And just as a question, do you know if the native seed search extends beyond the Southwest? Is that generic native seeds, or is it
No, no,
local,
no, no.
local to
It's
Arizona?
specific. It's specific here. And
Okay.
I was actually looking at the map last night, and it's like Arizona, Baja, northern Mexico. It's for I think it's for specific tribes.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, and they actually have a great little, yeah, lots of education, lots of resources, great little gift store area that you can support artists and things like that. Let me give this a little stir. Yep. I'm just going to put this back here to simmer. Okay. All right. So next we're going to make some chapatis. So for the chapatis, I worked with Sonoran wheat. Now the Sonoran wheat and mesquite you can get from this great regenerative farm on the in the west side called Oatman Farm, Oatman Farm, and they have different grades of wheat as far as how much they're milled for, whatever you're using it for, and then they have mesquite. Now I think that, and I'm just going to ask Tyler quickly, Urban Farm, didn't Urban Farm buy a mill at one point? Yeah. So there is a mill here, and I think it's through Urban Farm. Greg Peterson now lives in North Carolina, but I think that they still have a mill. And if you have a mesquite tree, you can collect your own pods and take it there and have your own mesquite flour milled. For those of us that do not have a mesquite tree, I can go to Oatman Farms and buy their milled mesquite. So Sonoran wheat, it's an heirloom wheat. It's nutrients dense. It's heritage soft white wheat containing high fiber, essential vitamins and minerals with a lower, more easily digestible gluten structure compared that's rather than what we have in our modern wheat. Its medicinal potential stems from being a rich source of antioxidants and having a lower glycemic index, which helps support cardiovascular health, reduce inflammation, and improve blood sugar control. Now the mesquite, which is this, and it just, I wish you were here and you could smell it. So mesquite is considered high energy food. It's a really important plant for the Southwest Native people. Mesquite flour helps to stabilize blood sugar. It's high in lysine, rich in calcium and magnesium and potassium, iron and zinc. It inhibits diarrhea and intestinal inflammation, including hemorrhoids, colitis, and ulcers. It's sweet and astringent, and it pacifies vata. Um, where the Sonoran wheat is pacifying for both pitta and vata. And when you're making Sonora style flour chapatis, it's thin, pliable, slightly sweet tortillas, basically. And I replace the traditional lard with ghee, or again, you can do a different oil if you prefer. Um, they kind of have a nutty flavor to them. So what I did was I made my dough. Basically how we kind of make chapati dough. I did a cup and a half of the Sonoran wheat flour, a half cup of the mesquite flour. You can see it a little bit browner. And then I did 3 tablespoons of ghee, and then a teaspoon of salt, and then a little bit of warm water. So this is our little ball, and is that hot enough? Yeah. So what we do here is just take a little bit of our flour, put it there, take that, and get a little spoon of ghee. So I just take a little drop of ghee there. And I roll it. So what we were doing when we made these last, Tyler likes some green chili. So you can always do these stuffed as well. Just a little bit of ghee. And fold it. And ghee, and fold it. So when we're folding it, it's making it a little bit lighter, a little bit fluffier. Okay. So my chapatis typically look more like amoebas. Okay. So then I got my hot grill on. And these, like I said, because of the mesquite, they're very sweet. They're very naturally sweet. If you want to make them a little bit spicier, we're going to talk about a little chili, and I'm going to show you how to add a little chili powder. So you can use the roasted chili, or you can use a chili spice. Okay, you can see how this is getting kind of, that's from folding it and folding it. It makes it a little bit lighter.
Cooked pretty quick.
Yeah, they cook pretty quick on the griddle. So
Cast iron pan works too.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So there's that. I am going to just slide that in there. Just keep that warm. Um, so this is a little chili tip chili tip pan. And I'm gonna break that. This is very hot, so pitta beware. It has a high caspian content and it acts as a potent stimulant. They're pungent. They offer anti-inflammatory and digestive boosting. They're good for releasing congestion. So what I'm going to do is just put that off to the side. A little dot there. It's too much. So these are kapha pacifying, and then it will help if the gluten is a little bit heavy for people. It will help to allow that gluten to be a little bit more easily digestible. But again, it's not my jam. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start making and you can just take these and sprinkle some in the middle. That is plenty. So drop. So the plants that they grow on, they just look like little red berries on the plants, and the plants are quite pretty.
We should grow one.
Yeah, we will. We'll get some seeds from native seeds and grow one. And I mean, like in my yard, we have a neem tree, we have a curry tree, I grow brahmi and stuff like that. So it's not to say don't do that, but it's also just like a really lovely way to honor the land that we live on and honor the heritage of the land that we live on. A way to show some respect. So you want that nice and hot. This is stir. All right, start that again. You can see how it's getting nice and light. One more second. Okay. All righty. So later, I'll finish those. And then what it's really important when you make the dough, though, I made the dough and then I covered it for a good 30 minutes. And when you do that, it helps the gluten to become even less, like not as strong. And then I took it and I rolled it into the little individual balls. Okay. And there. And then next we have the bowls. So these are already cleaned. Now, if you happen to have a Nepalese plant, a prickly pear plant, you can harvest them yourself. When you harvest them, let's give this a little wipe. Okay, off to the side. So you can purchase them already prepped, or you can harvest them yourself. Obviously, if you do that using tongs, hold them, and then you can just take your knife. You want to cut off the base where they were connected to the plant, and then you trim around the edges, and then you would hold them and go away from the stickers. Hold them like this, and then do that to get all stickers off. And then you'll want to rinse them again to make sure that you've got all of the stickers off, because you don't want one of those bad boys in your tongue. All righty. So let me throw that away. All right. The Napoles. Napoles have always been considered a delicacy in Native American cuisine, particularly by Navajo or Southern Arizona. All cacti are edible, but Napoles are some of the best. They're tasty, served hot, directly off the grill, or we're cooking them in a cast iron stove. They have anti-inflammatory, diuretic. They have the qualities of slimy and smooth. And so it's really helpful for the digestive tract, especially if there's high pitta. So they're very pitta pacifying. It's a hypoglycemic tonic, and it's beneficial for type 2 diabetes. It helps to lower both cholesterol, LDL, and both cholesterol types. And they're also high in vitamin C, A, and B complex. So you can cook them with ghee or oil, salt, and you can finish with a little bit of lime. Or you can even air fry them, and you can dip in a little bit of breadcrumbs and honey. So, or not honey, egg, and then roll them and then put them. So what we're going to do is we're just going to, this is nice and hot, add a little bit more ghee to that. We're giving this a little stir, get it put off cooking on the bottom. Look how thick that is. So amaranth can also be used as a breakfast kind of cereal type thing. And then also, of course, you can pop amaranth. Yeah, so all of that popping is the water it's cooking off. Some people boil them. You can also cube them and boil them, and they boil them with cilantro stems, not even the leaves, cilantro stems, and some onion. That can also get rid of some of the gelatinous aspect. I like the gelatinous because it's very soothing for the joints, and again, it's pitta pacifying. So this, once it's cooked, then you can cut it in strips. I have a recipe on my website of some breakfast tacos with this. It's traditionally served with eggs. It's oftentimes served with eggs. And so I have a really yummy recipe, but this is just simple. We've just got our a little bit of pepper, pinch of salt. And you want to cook it until it's tender. Okay. Then go ahead and add the second one too. Let's check the amaranth. That looks great. Let's pull this guy off. It's pretty good. I'm going to turn the fan on.
Too loud.
And then I'm going to add a little salt to our amaranth. Right. Down. Right. Amaranth is done. Let that sit for a moment. So for the Napoles, you can you can harvest Again, be careful if you're cleaning them yourself. Harvest, clean them, you're trimming around the sides. And then once you're ready, you can see how pretty they are on the inside as well. I didn't have any for this because I couldn't find any that was ready, but there's lots. The fruit of this is prickly pear. So prickly pear is sweet, astringent. It's tonifying for the colon and the lungs. Prickly pear also helps with treat diabetes and diarrhea, and they contain a type of dopamine, which makes them medicinal for those with vata imbalances, with a nervous system imbalance. And prickly pears are high in ascorbic acid, magnesium, bioflavonoids, and they're mostly pitta pacifying, but supportive for both vata and kapha. So there's lots of fun things to do with prickly pear, the actual fruit. Uh, you can make them into syrup. You can roast them. There is a woman named, I will get the book for you. It's a Southwestern book, Carol Niemeyer, maybe. And she has a lot of really, really great Southwestern recipes for how to work with prickly pear. So I was going to do that today, but I just couldn't find any that looked ready. Okay, let's talk about our amaranth for a moment. So amaranth, as I said, it's one of the world's most, it's considered a successful weed. And as I said, there's more than 60 different varieties. It's grown on 5 continents, and one plant yields up to 50,000 seeds, which is enough to plant 2 acres. And amaranth is also rich in phosphorus, magnesium, and iron, and it's considered a complete protein because it contains all 9 essential amino acids, including lysine, which is often low in other types of grains. It's considered a pranic tonic, so it's a chi tonic, and it helps improve the body maintain, it helps the body maintain energy. The rasa is sweet, the taste is sweet and astringent, and it disperses dampness, so it's beneficial to reduce congestion, excess mucus, diarrhea, heavy menstrual flow, and yeast overgrowth. And amaranth is vata and kapha pacifying. And as I said, the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization has fostered the use of amaranth since 1967 because where it is grown, there's little to no malnutrition. So that is fun. And also, I don't know if you've seen an amaranth plant, but it's beautiful. It's just a really, really beautiful plant. So because we have time and we have amaranth, I'm going to make one of those little crisps for you. So let me finish with this guy. Any questions? Let's see if we have any other questions.
Okay, regarding mesquite pods, to make the flour or to mill it, do you mill the entire pod or just the seeds that are inside the pod?
No, they mill the entire pod.
Because
Oh,
It
okay.
goes.
the entire pod goes through, but the seed gets removed from the pod itself.
Oh, okay. So that Tyler actually knows this about the mill because he's seen it with Greg. So the entire seed, the entire pod goes into the mill, and the mill separates it, and then the seed is what. But when you're collecting your pods, you just take all of your pods to the mill.
Okay. Everything that looks absolutely so delicious. I wish we were all there. And we
Well, if you
could
want to swing
sample.
by, I'm going to
Okay.
have plenty. I need to like call the kids and have them come over. And if you want, if anybody's in the area, swing by, and we've got it all ready.
Okay.
I'm going to let this cook a little bit more. It's not quite done enough, but what I'm going to do is get on that crisp. Turn that off. Yeah, and I really want to encourage you guys to like go to the native seed search and start looking into how we can support our native land. I mean, I think that that's really the big thing is just like because everything is energy and everything is energetics, like just sending that interest into our soil that we want to foster it and we want to support it. I personally believe it will go a long way in just helping to heal the planet. All right, so we are going to pull this guy off. Off the heat. All right, so now I've got this guy heating up. You want to get this nice and hot. Some heat in there. This. All right, so what we're doing is cooking more of the water off. You can see how much it's evaporating out. We get little seeds popping out. We're going to let that heat and brown. And again, play with amaranth, play with all the different ways that you can work with a super, super nutrient dense food. So while this is going, I think I'm going to actually put together a plate. Oh, wait, we have one more thing. We're just going to use this pan. We're going to add a little bit of some greens. And so I've got some wild arugula. So now I hope that you can see how we are incorporating all of the six tastes into the meal. So we've got the sweetness of the squash. We've got the astringency. We're getting some bitter with the green. Look at how that's starting to come up around the edges. So that's what we're looking for. I was actually looking for some purslane. I don't know if you've ever worked with purslane. Purslane is very high in vitamin E. It's a very strong antioxidant. I was hoping that we might have gotten some rain before this taping because we don't purposely grow. It's a very nutritious weed. But when purslane comes in the yard, I always pull it out And I can actually include a recipe. So I make a purslane chimichurri. So you're mixing some purslane, some cilantro. I usually put a little bit of parsley in it, and then olive oil, salt, pepper, and lime juice. And that's a really nice additive. But purslane wasn't to be had today, but I can include that in the notes if anybody is interested. All right. Okay, needs to go a little bit longer.
This is wet, so.
Yeah, it's still too wet. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put together, I'm going to actually use this plate. Have all that line. Okay. All right. So we are going to squash. Wow, it smells so good. There's our three sisters hanging out together. So this, when I was talking earlier about the hominy butterflies, see how that's kind of burst open like that right there? Okay. Ah, can you get the tongs, please? Thank you. Alrighty. So here we go. That's our indigenous Ayurveda meal.
Bravo. That is incredible. My goodness. I'm just speechless. And I know like somebody in the comments just wrote, "Oh, that looks so good." And the other
These
comment is just,
flowers.
thank you so much. It says she says, I love everything you are sharing with us, Lorilee. It is so doable and that this is inspiring because I think, these principles, we've all learned how to make kitchari and chapati things from India using, Indian ingredients, but you've just shown us how we can cook Ayurvedically with things that are grown on our own land, and we are healing the land, honoring our ancestors that came way before us here. This is incredible. Lorilee, thank you so very, very much.
You are very welcome. Are there any other questions? And we're cutting it a little bit short, but
No,
everything
no,
looks like bada bing, bada boom. Oh, wait, you know what I
I
put on? I didn't put on the Nepalese. Oh my
okay.
Oh, yeah. It's-
God, great.
Yeah,
Here we go. There we go.
yeah.
Now we have our, yeah.
So you have the sweet, sour, salty, pungent, bitter, astringent right there in with locally grown indigenous foods
Mhm.
here in Arizona. So if you had had, this is just a what if question. We've all seen the prickly pear fruit and it just looks gorgeous. It looks like you want to pick it and eat it. And of course, it's got prickers on it, so you're not going to pick it like an apple. But if you had had those, how would you have incorporated those into this meal and how would you have prepared it?
Yeah, so I was looking at either doing a tea or
Mm.
there's also a sumac is a local bush as well. You can make a sumac tree tea, or you could do a prickly pear tea. You could also just slice them and roast them. What else I was looking for that I couldn't find, and I didn't have enough time to source it, was some choya buds. Let me just grab a book that the one I was telling you about. That this has been a lot of inspiration for. So, Cooking the Wild Southwest.
Okay, wonderful. Perfect.
And so she actually breaks it up and talks about, the Mexican oregano. She breaks it up into the different seasonings that you can harvest yourself, flavors from the wild. Um, and this is just a ton of fantastic. The whole section on pinon nuts, a whole section on chia seeds. Chia seeds are native to Arizona.
Wow, I did not know that.
I know. I mean, it's a really deep, fun dive that we can get into. And because indigenous people, they didn't have the conveniences that we do, they
Mhm,
naturally were working with nature because they had to, because they were being
mhm,
informed by nature. So
mhm.
everything that I've been playing with and learning about, it just leans into the Ayurvedic philosophy.
It certainly does. And here's people are saying this looks so good.
So
Um, regarding the s- plants like amaranth, and now you're now learning about chia can grow here. Um, is it your belief that the plants that are drought tolerant, that we don't need to supply massive quantities of water, does that factor into the plants that you've used today and the
it really
selection
does.
over? Okay.
Yeah, it really does. And though something I think it's really important to remember is just so I'm native Arizona. I was born here in 1968. So I have seen this city change hugely. I remember when at 32nd Street in Camelback where the Safeway is, I remember when wild horses were running there.
Mhm.
And years ago, I had a client. So this was probably about 20 years ago. I had a client who was in his late 90s and he was fourth, fifth, his generational. He had been here forever and ever, or his family had his lineage. And he said that he remembered when he was a child. So now, mind you, this is about, 100, almost 100 years ago, because it was 20 years ago from now. And then he was 100 or almost 100. But he said that he remembered that playing next to the Salt River that he grew up next to. He said that the foliage was so lush and green and that the Salt River was so filled with fish that you could almost walk across the top of it. He just used to tell me these amazing stories about the Southwest. So I think that we really need to take into consideration how we have depleted through growing the city, how much we have depleted the land that we're on. And that's where I said earlier, learning how to be stewards of the land, to be able to put our energy back into the land rather than just consuming from the land. But I think that, there it's not as there wasn't as much there were monsoons when I was growing up. We would spend most of our summers sitting on the front porch every night watching the light show and playing in the rain. And when I was in middle school, we would run around the Biltmore golf course in the middle of the summer, and we would have sweatshirts on because it was cold at night in the summer here. So, the effect that we have had on the environment is quite telling. being almost 60 years old and being here almost my entire life.
Mhm. It's just also such a healing way of life, like Ayurveda is. We know that we are to always be in balance with our environment. And you've just given us such a beautiful gift today, Lorilee, on how to do that in the most delicious and nutritious way imaginable. And I just wanted to remind everybody that's listening to this, if you're not watching the chat, all the recipes are being sent with the recording. So if you are watching the recording here, look below. You might be watching this on our website or on a YouTube channel, or somebody might have forwarded it. So if somebody has just forwarded you the video, and I'm talking to people who are just watching this later, not in real time, but sometime in the future, link back to the website for APA, which is azayurveda.org. And that's where we put the replay links. And in there, it will link to our YouTube channel, which will have all of the links and the resources and the recipes, all of it. Because I know this is going to be a very popular video. So we just want to make sure we get everybody equipped. And thank you again so very much.
Thank you.
Lorilee, and also Tyler for being an
Yeah, I wanted to do a big shout out to
camera
Tyler.
person.
So
Thank you so much.
thank you.
Okay, we'll sign off. Thanks again.
Bye.
Bye.